Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy practitioner. And last week, or last time, a few weeks ago, uh, I told you guys that now in this part where we're at regarding natural law, I have to start talking about God, which opened another can of worms for me because I don't know where everybody's at with regards to that, but just how crazy things are in the world. And because that's what I'm doing and have been doing for a long time, over 3 decades at least. And I haven't really gotten into it because I don't want to be labeled a religionist by any means. Um, but it is time. I have to, I can't not talk about it anymore, really. Um, and just by how crazy everything is in the world, it's like it's what I rely on. So I don't really need to pay attention to the blow by blow crazy that's going on out there because I know what they're doing. They're trying to dismantle things that people basically rely on so that people will accept the New World Order and whatever bullshit God religion that they supply, along with that socialist uh, structure that they're trying to impose on the world. Um, so it's now time for me to be candid about my experience with what I call God, um, and also to encourage other people to start to investigate that for themselves so that they don't have to play along with the narrative. And so I took some notes, and I also have a book that I'm probably going to be using. Um, so I'm just going to go with that. So, like, I have been doing this for, over 3 decades, and I have surrendered to the point now where my experience is magical. I live in a magical world where I interact with the unseen throughout the day, and I have miracles, amazing, miraculous things happen all the time that I, don't necessarily write down, um, because it's common for me now. Although every time I do experience it, it is always like a truly amazing experience. Um, and when I first started doing it, I had not fully surrendered. In fact, I didn't believe in it at all, but I had people encouraging me to try it anyway. And I've had amazing things happen to me, um, throughout the years. Uh, I could just say a few, like the first one that I really decided to um, not deny was probably in 2009. I think, I'm not sure, maybe that 2009. Um, I was in downtown Denver. I was pulling into a homeless shelter where I was going to go volunteer, and a guy was like right in my path, and he had like gold teeth, the gangsta gold teeth thing. And he got mad because he said he seemed to think I was going to run him over, and he slammed his fists on the hood of my car and yelled at me. And inside, I felt like this surge of energy go through my body, and I felt like I was going to kick this guy's ass, which was ridiculous. because he was a big, scary, crazy homeless guy, and I'm me. But instead of saying, a bunch of cuss words in response, I said to him, God bless you. And he literally disappeared into thin air. And I decided that I wasn't going to deny that experience. I decided that I was going to say that that really happened. And I haven't really figured it out since then, except that, first of all, what it proved to me was that I don't have to physically believe in what I'm doing in order to do it, and have it work. That there's a certain frequency in the words that I say that can overcome my thoughts and feelings. And also, that possibly by saying those words, was moved into a different dimension than he was in. It could have also been because I was going to be of service to those less fortunate, that I was in that position. So that was the first thing, the first time something really big like that ever happened. Even though I had been practicing this for a long time prior to that, I've been, like I said, 3 decades I've been working on this, but because I came from such a bad childhood situation, my nervous system was basically shot, and I was always filled with apprehension and anxiety. So I would pray for help. And then if I didn't get help in like 5 seconds, I would go ahead and do whatever seemed like the right thing for me to do. So I wouldn't see the results of my prayers, except in hindsight, I would see how it would have been better if I hadn't acted. But I didn't have the patience and the serenity of mind to be able to follow it through for a long time. So 2009 was only, what was that, like 15 years ago or something? So that's from going forward from 2009 till now, I have been able to pray and wait. And that grows more and more. Like I get less and less terrified. Of course, it still took a long time for me to get to where I have a knowing now. And I haven't really had to like lose that. Now, I got fired from a job in 2022, and I did do a Joe Dispenza meditation every day for like 3 weeks after being fired so that I wouldn't plummet into terror. And I could keep my frequency up. And that was mainly for me so that I wouldn't, get depressed or terrified, physically terrified, filled with anxiety or whatever. So nothing since then. Since then, things have been pretty even keeled, even though the crazy is going on out there. And that's why I think it's important to talk about that now. So in other words, with regards to surrender, what I found is that you can practice prayer and alignment to natural law principles, and eventually you will come to rely on them if you work toward it. That's one thing. The other thing, so the book I'm going to be using right now is Emmett Fox, Sermon on the Mount. He's written quite a few books that I like, and just happens to be the one I'm currently reading with the group. I'm not sure this is coming out backwards. It says the key to success in life. And of course, it's all Bible-y and everything. And as you all know, I've said this many times, I do not read the Bible. I let Emmett Fox read it for me. But there's really good stuff in there that are natural laws, because natural law is basically spiritual law. So I'm going to use this book, and like when it talks about Jesus, which it does, I'm going to just say natural law instead, which is basically what they're talking about. And then I was also going to just share my experience with God this week, because I just had a few really big experiences this week, which I have like experiences every single day with God. Just stupid little experiences, like when I open the garage door, I pray, because I basically cannot open the garage door myself without praying, because I usually just can't seem to get the key to work in the lock or get the door open, because it's made of cedar shakes. And, if I try to open the garage door without praying, I will inevitably break pieces of wood off of the garage door. So I always pray, and the lock always just falls open, and the gate always just opens pretty much on its own when I pray. So that's kind of what I do when I say stupid little prayers, that's what I'm talking about. Just whenever I simply cannot function in the third dimension, which I do have a hard time with, I pray and I get miraculous things like that. To me, that is miraculous, because I know how hard it is just to do stupid things that most people don't have any problem with. And then when I pray, how easy it is. And I only say that because, I'm encouraging the people who have similar experiences as I do to try it out. You don't even have to believe in anything to try it out. That's what's amazing. One of the amazing things. So this week, let's see, the first thing that I thought of this week that happened was, well, like I've said before, my husband and I don't have that much in common except for God. We pray a lot. We pray together. We have we don't eat the same way. We don't function the same way. We're not interested really in the same things, except for nature. We both love nature, like being out in the woods or being outside and seeing animals and birds and stuff like that. So this week he found out that he owed a bunch of money to the IRS. Well, you guys know I don't participate in that crap. And I have a lot of information and experience about that. And what he does, he's by the book, and it's none of my business what he does. So what I did was we prayed together about it, and I just suspended my opinions because they're for me. And the next day he looked in his bank account and he had plenty to pay what he believed he owed to them. And that was amazing. So that was one thing. The next day he had like a little fender bender, which I had a lot of opinions about that too. And I kept that to myself because it's none of my business. And we prayed about it. And that all worked out amazingly, easily for everyone. In fact, I think the guy that he hit, may become his assistant. So it was actually better than anything we could possibly have imagined it could have been. And then last night we were doing some construction work on our house. We were putting on a very toxic chemical on our roof. And he's in construction and I'm not. I mean, I'm an artist, so I'm pretty hands-on with stuff like that, but I kind of defer to him when it comes to these construction projects. And, you know, I don't know, you'd have to be in construction to know how construction workers treat each other. It's pretty crappy. So he was treating me like shit, to be honest. And I kind of was concerned that he was going to do that because he was tired. He'd just gotten home from work. I mean, there's really no excuse for it, but whatever. This is just what it is. And so I recited a very powerful prayer over and over while I was up there on the roof, just for the heights, the fear of heights thing, which I kind of have, but kind of don't have anymore. And it made my mind, I basically was placed in a state of neutrality about everything, and I was able to just observe him acting like a little bratty child, which I've also acted that way. So it's not like it was anything I'd never seen before. I've seen myself behave that way when I was in fear, in a hurry, hadn't read the directions, blah, blah, blah. And I was able to just do what I could do, ignore him, mind my own business, and never feel any kind of emotional reaction to him. So that was another miracle, I thought. The amazing thing about that is that he apologized. And that's mainly because I minded my own business and was in a state of neutrality and I didn't react. So this is information for couples as well. You know, it's not that easy sometimes being in a couple, especially during this time. And that's why prayer really, really works. And the other thing is we've been bombed by chemtrails this week. And so I have a few things I do about that. One is that I use sword fingers, which is a Qigong mudra, and I point at the chemtrails and I do a reverse circle 3 times. And I say this prayer that I made up, which is that I command the chemtrails to return to sender. And I do say in a name of a divine being, because they're violating my natural law rights to clean air, land, and water. And I also command that they pay the effect of their cause. And sometimes I say their chemicals are inert, and I will a lot of times see them disappear out of the air when I do that. But sometimes, if there's been too many chemtrails that day, I can't seem to penetrate the incredible bank of crap that's up in the sky. And it is very upsetting to me about this situation with chemtrails, but I don't really know what else to do about it, to be honest, because obviously the laws that they keep passing don't work because they have some kind of loophole in the law. Like the states that have passed these laws, I think Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida have all passed laws saying no more chemtrails, but then they keep bombing them. So there's obviously some stupid loophole in their stupid law, and they're just using their laws in a corrupt way to appease the people, but they're not working. They don't work to actually alleviate the chemtrail issue. So what do we do about that? I mean, some people use vinegar that right over their house, and that seems to work. I don't have a way to do that myself, but I'll put that in the description. Some people use these tensor generators. This is a small version of that, which I'll also put in the description. I'll just write that down. Vinegar, so you guys can check it out. But like what I do basically is I pray about it and I wait for an answer because I don't know what I can actually do about it. again, with so many things that are going on right now, I don't know individually what I can do about it except to talk about it and pray about it. And I ask for guidance and I pray for Mother Nature. Um, so that is what I did this week and the miracles that I experienced, uh, that I can remember off the top of my head. And now I'm just gonna read a little bit from this book. I did put this book and a bunch of other books that I thought might be helpful in my Telegram channel for y'all. Again, if nothing else, you could join the channels that I imported the books from, because the channels offer spiritual literature for free, PDFs and EPUBs. I also put the Sermon on the Mount in there as a Mobi and a PDF. And of course, you can convert the EPUBs to Mobis in Calibre, which is an open source version of, I guess, the Amazon software. Or you can just use a PDF and read it on your computer or on your iPad or whatever, or buy the books. But the point is that those channels that I shared with you are spiritual channels that provide interesting books. Some of them, are crappy, and there's a lot of them that are really awesome that I get for free, and so I get to read all these different books. So I'm just gonna read a little bit. Preface. This book is the distilled essence of years of Bible and metaphysical study, and of the many lectures I have delivered. It would have been easier to have made it twice its present length. My object, however, is to present the reader with a practical manual of spiritual development. And with this end in view, I have condensed the subject matter. So, again, I don't read the Bible. I let Emmett do it for me, but he does tell me how he does it. In the next page, he said, as you read the Bible, you should constantly affirm that divine wisdom is enlightening you. So if you want to read the Bible and try to find good chunks in it for yourself, go ahead. But you can use that term, that prayer. It's an affirmation and denial prayer, which is what Emmett Fox is known for. Divine wisdom is enlightening me. And I can use that for anything. If I'm reading the Divine Pymander by Hermes Trismegistus, which is hard for me to read, I might find more in it if I say divine wisdom is enlightening me than if I just try to read it with my own mind, that's not inspired. I also wanted to just read about Emmett Fox. There's a little thing here about him for people who don't know about him. Scientist, philosopher, and spiritual teacher Emmett Fox, 1886 to 1951, lectured wildly on tapping the realm of infinite power that surrounds us. His continued popularity and influence today, 4 decades after his last appearance at Carnegie Hall, speaks to the success of his philosophy in helping hundreds of thousands of people gain control of their lives. I don't consider Emmett Fox to be a New Age author. Unity was started by Mary Baker Eddy at some point. I can't remember what year. They use Emmett Fox, but his work is more grounded in actual natural law than other New Age authors. And it's earlier than other New Age authors. So whereas his prayer is affirmation and denial prayer, so divine wisdom is inspiring me, is an affirmation and a denial. It's an affirmation of divine wisdom is inspiring me and a denial of mundane information runs my life. it's not what that has been springboarded into, where you're, imagining your feelings or whatever, of your accomplishment, and yet you can still lie, cheat, and steal. Emmett Fox does not talk about that because he gets into how you have to act in order to reap what you sow and have that be what you want. So, I mean, again, he's talking about qi. He's talking about what the ancient Chinese talked about in their books, in their qigong, which is basically, or neikang, a lot of which is not written down. He's talking about basically whatever you want to call it, natural law, God, call it whatever you want. And he uses the Bible. He was able to extract things from the Bible. I personally have a problem with the Bible, as I've said many times. Chapter 1, it says, what did Jesus teach? Well, we could ask, what does natural law teach? This is the question which I have set myself to answer in this book. I propose to show that the message which natural law brought has a unique value because it is the truth, and the only perfect statement of the truth of the nature of God and of man and of life and of the world and of the relationships which exists between them. So why is that important? Well, as the dark occult Luciferians dismantle society and make it very difficult for people who have been relying on things that are man-made as eternal truths, you could go crazy right now. So if you're not already following natural law, now would be a good time to start. Let's see here. What does he say? And far more than this, we shall find that natural law's teaching is not a mere abstract account of the universe, which would be a very little more than of academic interest, but that it constitutes a practical method for the development of the soul and for the shaping of our lives and destinies into the things that we really wish them to be, even during this crazy time, especially during this crazy time. Natural law explains to us what the nature of God is and what our own nature is, tells us the meaning of life and of death, shows us why we make mistakes, why we yield to temptation, why we become sick and impoverished and old, and most important of all, natural law tells us how all these evils may be overcome and how we may bring health, happiness, and true prosperity into our lives and into the lives of others if they really wish for them to. If they really wish for them to. So I'm going to stop there with that. I think I've given you guys enough information for today that you can start trying it out. You can, if you grew up in a religious situation and have prejudice against that, you could write down what your prejudice is against that. And you could also ask yourself what spiritual terms from the religion that you were raised in mean to you. You could spend the next time writing about that and thinking about what these spiritual terms that you were raised with actually mean to you in the light of your experience and the light of what we have talked about here with regards to natural law. Until next time.